All right, well, I hope that was a fun and interesting tour for you guys. Yeah, that's a pretty great combination of how we can bring the electricity circuitry stuff that we learned about and the thermo stuff that we're learning about into one application. So I'm going to skip ahead on my PowerPoint really quick since we're talking about this, the 3D printing. So lab 4 is going to be different than all the other labs that you've done, and this is sort of an experiment, so we'll see how it goes. But seeing as your motor cars was an experiment, and that was pretty successful from my perspective. You guys all did some really innovative stuff and learned stuff, so we'll see how this goes. So what I want you guys to do for lab 4 is a little different than what we've done in the past. You've learned the basics of how the 3D printers work, some of the aspects of them that relate to thermodynamics, the heated bed, the extruder. So do a little bit of research online on how a 3D printer works. This is all done in your groups. And this isn't a lot of work that I'm expecting because we only have a week. Pick some aspect of the printer that relates to thermodynamics to research in more detail. So this could be the thermal isolation of the print head, the melting or cooling rate of plastics, maybe some of the stuff we learned about how adding color to the plastics changes the rate of cooling. The heated bed, what is the purpose of the heated bed? What are some of the issues with heated beds? Some of that stuff we saw with the edges of the material cooling too quickly and lifting off. Those are things you could research an issue or just some aspect of how do they figure this out. Like the thermal isolation of that print head, the tip needs to be hot, but you don't want the rest of it to be hot, otherwise the ABS going in the back end will melt too. So how do they figure that out? How do they keep the rest of it cool? So there's tons of articles about this stuff online that you could find. So find peer-reviewed articles and or professional websites. So sounds like Xerox is doing stuff with 3D printers, so that would be a professional website. Joe Bob down the street 3D printer, I don't know that you're going to rely on his information. So you're looking for...
If you want to go through Xerox, you want to go with 3D Systems.
3D Systems, is that what?
There's a break-off company.
Okay.
There's E3D, 3D Systems. There's a bunch of online stuff.
E3D, is this also...
It's the European version, basically.
Is it aligned with Xerox or is it separate?
It's separate.
Okay, so this is out of Europe. So maybe these are websites to research and see if you can find information that's useful on those.
There's a lot, like the companies, they're very hush-hush about, because it's so innovative. So I don't know how much peer review.
There's a lot. Doing just if you just do a Google scholar search. Scholarship. Yeah.
I wish.
If you do a Google Scholar search of 3D printer print head or printed bed, you'll get a lot of scholarly articles. So there is some. And if you're having trouble, email me, or you can go up to the librarians on the 4th floor. Dawn Taylor is an expert in researching. That's what librarians are experts in, is researching. And they love having students ask them for help. So that's your goal. And then next week, your group is going to present your findings to the class. 10-minute little talk. Nothing crazy. You know, you're just saying, this is what we learned.
Do you want presentation format or just?
That's entirely up to you. So just like a regular lab, you have 5 aspects of a lab. So presentation is how organized is it? How clear is the material you're presenting? Do you fall under the 10-minute mark? Do you come close to the 10-minute mark? I mean, if you stand up for 3 minutes and talk, that might not be adequate to fully give us information to the depth that we're hoping to get. Visual aids, so you could write on the whiteboard, you say, oh, we researched this aspect and it uses these physics equations that we've already learned and this is what you can do with them. You could do a PowerPoint if you want. You could do a poster if you want. I mean, whatever you want to do for your visual aid is up to you, or none if you want to just come up here and talk. So if you use a visual aid, it needs to be an effective visual aid. That's what I'm grading you on. That part of it. Is it an effective visual aid? Do you have a PowerPoint where all it is just like stock photos you found online that aren't actually telling us anything interesting? That's not really an effective visual aid. So don't have a PowerPoint just for the sake of a PowerPoint. If you feel that a PowerPoint is appropriate, use it. But it might not necessarily have to be a PowerPoint if that's not what your topic requires. Content, so the topic should be related to thermodynamics, since that's what we're focusing on. You should try and be thorough. Obviously, you only have 10 minutes, so you can't give a dissertation, and I don't want you spending that much time researching it anyway. And be insightful, so don't come up here and say, they use heat in a 3D printer, and that's thermodynamics. So try and get your college brain on and have this at the college level, not at the 3rd grade presentation level. Yes, show and tell. Yes, it's not show and tell. So this is somewhere between a high school presentation and a professional presentation you'd give to your boss at work. That's where we're at in college, right?
So we all have to speak up, right?
No, you don't all have to speak. If there are people that don't like talking, I'm not going to force you to talk. If there's one person that is very charismatic, but if we skip down to the teamwork part, all teams are doing some aspect of the work, and at some point in the presentation, maybe at the end, you can spend a few seconds explaining what each person did. It's just like in your regular report, you tell me what each person did. You don't all have to talk, but if you all want to talk, you can all talk. Skipping back up to results, you probably won't have equations or calculations to do necessarily, though you might. Your results here is just, have you explained the physics effectively and accurately? I want you to try and find some aspect of this that's related to physics. Try and explain it at the college level. And then your conclusion is just summarizing your presentation. And that goes down to this statement at the end. This goes for any report, any presentation you ever give. This is the rule of thumb. Say what you're going to say. That's your outline. Then you say it. And then your conclusion is you summarize what you said. Say what you're going to say it, say what you said. Easy peasy. So your conclusion is simply summarizing what you just said. So I saw some hands up. Stretching. Chris, did you have your hand up? Nope. Didn't you have your hand up? Thomas had his hand up.
I'm trying to remember. So this here, this is the equivalent of what the packet would be?
Yeah.
So we just show up and we do the speech, and the speech is the...
Yes. So my evaluation of you is I'm going to be writing down how you've completed these 5 tasks during your presentation. And so instead of doing a packet, you won't have anything to turn in. It's just the presentation, 10 minutes, me grading you. When you're done, you will know exactly how you did on Lab 4. This is next week. Yeah. This is next week in class. Oh, you like this? No, I've had people tell me they wanted to drop the class. When I had a presentation, I had a student say that he was going to drop the class because he had social anxiety and he was...
Yeah, I have a lab like this.
I'm very okay with
Well, I'm glad you guys like this idea. Well, let's see how this goes. We'll see how this goes. If it's a success, then we can consider incorporating it into future labs.
Like, next term?
I think it's great for grading because I finish grading all of your labs in the time that it takes for you to present them to me. And so I don't have homework, which is great.
I see my grade immediately.
Yeah, and you guys know your grade on the lab. Yeah. So
Very smart.
have you any questions at this point besides being enthusiastic, which I love? Do you have any enthusiasm? It seems like people are happy about this, so that's good. But do you have any questions about what exactly you should be doing?
No, it's
So
just Google stuff.
yeah,
And,
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as I'm done talking, as soon as we're done with this lecture, however much time left is you guys group talking, coming up with ideas, and you might have to get together outside of class, but you know, I'm not going to be grading you off for the ums and ahs. You know, I realize you're not going to have a lot of time to make this the most perfect speech ever. This isn't a speech class. When you're in industry, you're going to have a weekly report that you have to give to your boss. Sometimes it's impromptu, sometimes it's planned, but you stand up in front of people and you say your shit, and it's boring, and people fall asleep, and it's technical, and that's life. This is a very big aspect of working in industry, is presenting. But they don't care if you ums and ahs and whatever and stumble over yourself. That, you know, it's mostly like, is the content relevant? Is the content accurate? You know, so I'm not going to be like a speech teacher. Okay, so cool. Okay. Now we've been going since the tour. People need a potty break?
Yes.
All right, let's do that.